This lecture is about causal research in marketing, and I'll be limiting most of my comments to experiments. So I'm going to go through an example of some research I did a few years ago looking at fair trade coffee. The hypothesis was that, the backstory on this was Tully's was interested in the effectiveness of switching to fair trade coffee. So the hypothesis was that for well-known brands, the taste would be presumed to be high, so the social responsibility claim would improve the success of the ad because people already believed the coffee to be high quality and good tasting. But for unknown brands, the quality was uncertain, and our research suggested that the taste was much more important than the social responsibility. So the ad should push the taste and not the fair trade. And that's exactly the opposite of what typically we see, that small roasters, unknown brands were motivated by a desire to have fair trade coffee, and they were heavily promoted as fair trade alternatives. So our manipulation, we had two independent variables mentioned previously. The brand. For our well-known brand, we used Tully's, and we did the research in Seattle, and our pretest indicated that almost everybody knew what Tully's was. And for our unknown brand, we had Brown Bag Beanery, which is a fictitious coffee roaster. And the two claims were either an advertising claim of taste or a claim of social responsibility to the farmers. So the procedure was we had subjects come into a room. They were told they were going to see ads for coffee, and they were presented these ads in a PowerPoint setup, so they saw a slide. And they saw either a print ad for a new fair trade coffee. They all saw a print ad for a new fair trade coffee, and it had one of four combinations. Either was presented as Tully's coffee or Brown Bag Beanery, and it was either had a taste claim or a social responsibility claim. So this is a classic 2x2 factorial design. That's how experimentalists would describe it. So there were four conditions: a Tully's taste and a Tully's social responsibility, and a brown bag taste and a brown bag social responsibility. And it was completely between subjects. That is, each subject saw one of those, was in one of those four conditions. So we were comparing four groups of people, each who had seen a different ad. After seeing the ad and some other things that sort of unrelated, people were offered a choice between. They were told they were going to get some coffee as a gift for participation, and the coffee was put up in the front of the room, and there were two types of coffee, and it was either the advertised coffee or a control coffee, and the control coffee was always Tully's house blend. So we were interested in seeing what proportion of the people took the advertised coffee and whether that proportion differed across the four groups. So these are the results. Again, there are two independent variables here: the name, which is either Tully's or Brown Bag Beanery, and the ad claim, which was either taste or social responsibility. And on the vertical axis, you can see the percentage of people who chose the advertised brand. And this is a classic interaction effect. Interaction effects mean that the lines between the groups are not parallel. If they were parallel and horizontal, it would mean that there's a main effect that raised one above the other. If they were parallel and not horizontal, it would mean there's a main effect of each of the variables that caused them to go up, but one started out higher and stayed higher. If they cross at any point, there's interaction effect, meaning that the effect of one of the variables is different depending on the other. And as you can see here, Tully's, the dashed line, improves from taste to social responsibility. So it's presumed to be good tasting initially, and people were more likely to choose that advertised brand if it were advertised as being socially responsible. The brown bag beanery product went down. So its taste was high if it were advertised as good tasting, but if it were advertised pushing the social responsibility, people were least likely to prefer that as the advertised brand. And that's consistent with our hypothesis that people were suspicious or skeptical about the taste of the unknown brand. So it required some advertising to assure them of its good taste. And they weren't willing to buy on the basis of social responsibility alone.